We're going to talk more about this now with Jan Ionesco in Brasilia. Jan, last night Emmanuel Macron made these comments criticizing this potential trade deal. Has there been a lot of reaction to that there?
Well, as you'd expect, there's been a lot of disappointment because of those comments. Of course, it was known before President Macron arrived here in Brazil that he was opposed to the deal. Last year, he said that he was worried about how it would affect French farmers and said that South American farmers wouldn't be held to the same high standards as those in Europe. Despite that, though, Brazilians were hoping that they might be able to revive the deal, make some progress with this visit, especially given the warm relationship between President Lula and President Macron. And that's why it was brought up yesterday by the Vice President here, Geraldo Alckmin. But it now seems that President Macron has hammered the final nail in the coffin of that deal by saying, as you say, it's a very bad deal. He said it's 20 years old. It doesn't reflect the modern day. It needs to be scrapped and rewritten, taking into account the climate and also biodiversity, which are, of course, two issues on which the two presidents are very much aligned.
They certainly are, and we saw that a lot on the first day of Macron's trip. This is now the third and final day. What's on the French president's schedule today?
Well, President Macron is expected to arrive here in a couple of hours, and he'll be received with all the pomp and ceremony that you'd expect for a visiting head of state. They will then enter their bilateral talks, which is where other thorny issues between the two countries are likely to be raised, other than Mercosur and the EU free trade agreement, in particular the war in Ukraine. Of course, France, along with the rest of the EU, has imposed tough sanctions on Russia because of their illegal invasion, and they would like countries in the global south like Brazil to do the same. However, so far Lula has refused to do so, and in fact he's even gone as far as to invite President Putin to the G20 summit to be held in Rio de Janeiro later on in this year. But despite those differences, this has been seen as a very positive visit here in Brazil. There's a lot of agreement between the two, especially on the climate. And in fact, they've pledged to raise €1 billion between the two countries over the next 4 years to protect biodiversity. So it's been seen very positively, especially given that during President Bolsonaro, his presidency, there was a lot of animosity between him and Macron. So this has been a real reset of the relationship between the two countries, a real rapprochement.
Yeah, and thank you for that. Jan Ionesco there reporting for us from Brasilia.